What's up, YouTube family? Welcome back to our channel. Today I wanted to talk about a topic that comes up a lot and that we all struggle with: motivation. You know, where does it come from? What can I do to rekindle it? What can I do to keep it going? What's some examples of it? I don't know. I believe that part of this channel is about us motivating one another to to chase these fitness goals, to chase these, fitness dreams, to live to be better, healthier, stronger, better. And like I say on the channel all the time, is that we do this together, There's days where, one of us may fall short and we help each other up, we continue to breathe life into each other, So motivation, I'll talk about motivation from the standpoint of how my weight loss journey went. I started out at 348 pounds, probably in the neighborhood of 45 to 50% body fat. I worked out 4 or 5 times a week, went to the gym, had no diet plan, didn't do cardio, was serious about working out, but wasn't serious about body composition. Was obviously not healthy, I wasn't unhealthy because I was doing something, but I wasn't healthy because, I was carrying a lot of extra weight. I was definitely obese. I was, I'd been overweight for so long that getting into my 40s, my blood markers were starting to head to the edge of normal range and on their way out of range. And it was clear that when I looked around, I was like, I'm not gonna see my 70s if I keep headed like this. And I wanted to do some things that were out of my reach at the time. I wanted to skydive. That was just one thing on my bucket list. And so I said, you know what? I'm gonna set a goal of losing enough weight to skydive, which for me at the time was I needed to lose 98 pounds. So I walked into a CrossFit gym and I introduced myself and I told them that, this is where I'm at and this is my goal, and I wanna jump out of a plane. I wanna lose enough weight to do that. And they said, well, that's great, and they were more than happy to help. But motivation is something that for many people, we can light the fire, but it dies off. So I found the way that I was successful by setting lots of mini goals. And for me, I just needed to keep the scale moving. So in order to keep the scale moving, I had to continually change and adapt as my metabolism adapted. So, it started out by just doing what the class was doing, adding in that cardio, and then literally just cleaning up my diet, Stop having seconds, stop putting so much on my plate, stop using heavy cream and real butter in my cooking, Don't have any fast food. These simple changes, the weight just started to just fall off of me. And each time I saw the scale start to slow down, I said, okay, so what I want to do, because guess what? There's 2 things you can do to lose more weight: eat less, move more. My motivation lied therein of the scale continuing to move for me. Don't get me wrong, you can't get all hung up in the scale. That's not the only thing. We like to take pictures. I also took pictures all along the way. I had a good friend, he would take pictures, from the back, from the sides, and I would take these at regular intervals so that, I could continue to look at them and continue to stay motivated. Because sometimes, you're losing weight in the back and you don't see it, or sometimes the scale's not moving, but when we're new to some of this, we're doing some recomping. We're adding muscle tissue and losing fat at the same time. We're getting better, we're getting healthier, but we don't see it in the scale. So you can't only get hung up in the scale. But for me, I had plenty of room to keep the scale moving, if that makes sense. I had plenty of fat in order to know that, the scale could continue to move. Not every single day, don't get hung up in the fact. Sometimes there's days where you may have some more water retention. You may have more in your GI tract. You may weigh yourself at a different time of day. You may have ate something that your digestion system has not pushed out, in the same as something else, and you may have more that you're retaining. So don't get too hung up in the day to day. But the overall, the week to week, that body, it ought to keep coming down. And like I said, as it slowed down, I would add more. It got to where just the 1 hour CrossFit class in the morning wasn't enough. So I added, some outside activity. I like to run. Now, currently as a bodybuilder, running is hard for me to recover from and still get the most hypertrophy out of my leg workouts, so I don't do it now. But it's still a part of my fitness journey. It's still a part of my story. It's still something that I enjoy. So I started running, in the evenings. I started adding running to my daily routine. I do the CrossFit in the morning and run in the evenings. And then I started adding an extra strength training workout because muscle hypertrophy, also more muscle will burn more fat. And it was just like, as long as I'm moving more, I was burning more. Then the diet continued to evolve. I eventually reached a point where, just doing portion control wasn't enough. I had to set some kind of diet where I wasn't necessarily counting calories at first. There was an interim period where I was just eating controlled meals. And I knew it was, a lower amount of calories. I went through all kind of things where I drank mostly protein shakes. I went through periods where I ate a ton of boiled eggs because they were good snacks. I ran through periods where I was eating tons of pickles, which ended up being way too much salt for me. It was a learning process along the way. Then I started focusing on high volume, low calorie food sources. The point is that I continued to learn. I continued to become teachable. I continued to seek information and knowledge. I continued to do more. And the more that I did, the more results that I got. Also, what I did is I continued to set these mini goals. I would say I joined some groups on Facebook where we motivated each other, and I would post update photos, and I would say, okay, at 6 months, I'm gonna post an update photo, and I would work toward that goal of looking the best that I possibly could in these photos, because I wanted to not only look for my best for myself, but I wanted to motivate others, because I found satisfaction in motivating other people to believe in themselves. So that was motivation for me, the motivation of others as well. So I set these small goals. 6 months, I would do a update. 9 months, I would do an update. Then 1 year, I was gonna do an update. And I continued to, through motivating others, it kept me motivated. Because it was like, this isn't just for me, this is for, all the people out there that may grab hold of my hope string and may decide that they want to make a change in their life, And so I continued to post, I continued to make these mini goals. Then the CrossFit Open came up, and I wanted to compete in this. I had no disillusion that I wasn't gonna win, but I wanted to place pretty well for a 40-something guy that weighed over 200 pounds, that had went on this journey of losing, over 125 pounds in a period. Couldn't keep my, long story short, couldn't keep my shoulder healthy. I was having, tore the labrum on one side, and as I was healing that, I ended up tearing the labrum on the other side, even worse. I started competing in the Open under the injured category, and I was actually leading the world for a short period of time, and I just felt like I didn't want to lead in that category. I wanted to lead as healthy, and so I stopped submitting my scores. But I couldn't get my shoulder healthy. I kept having to scale things back, and I felt like I wasn't progressing in certain areas. And someone was like, "You should try bodybuilding." And I was like, "Oh man, I've got stretch marks." They're like, "Well, all bodybuilders have stretch marks." And I'm like, "Touche." And they're like, "Oh, well," I said, "Well, I got loose skin." They're like, "What about all the women that's had a baby?" And I'm like, "Okay." So I started on this journey, not knowing, could I combat the loose skin? Could I combat the stretch marks? Could I look good enough in my 40s? Could I beat the younger guys? I didn't have the answers. But I continued to just be the best that I could be. Literally, when I decided in August of last year that I was gonna do a show, I was like, I'm just gonna put 100% effort, and I'm gonna step onto that stage, and I'm gonna know that I did everything in my plan, and that I did everything in my power, and that I gave 100% of my effort. And if I don't win, that's okay, because I couldn't do any better for myself given the time. And there was so many times I sat on that cardio equipment. I say sat as I'm moving on that cardio equipment, and 10 minutes into an hour cardio session, all I want to do is quit. And it's literally me in my own mind arguing with myself about, 200 calories is enough, 15 minutes is enough. You're gonna hit this cardio session tonight. What about your training tonight? Don't you need some rest? Just constantly. But I set this thing where I was about, if I decided I was gonna do it, if I decided it was in the plan, that I would do it no matter what. So I literally had countless hours where all I wanted to do was quit, but I just never once did. I eventually started adding music. I didn't listen to music while I did my cardio. Eventually I added the music in order to drown out the own argument with myself. And I continued and I started to add like mantras. You notice that I have t-shirts that I sell a lot of times, and these are like mantras that I told myself, pros train like pros, champions never quit, winning requires sacrifice. I started to hang Post-it notes around my house, on my mirrors, on my cabinets, winning requires sacrifice, pros train like pros, never give up, just do your best. I went through, I stepped on stage, I took home some trophies. I didn't win, but I did place. And I did my very best. And I learned what I needed to learn so that next year I can bring home the W's. I was diet fatigued. I came into the show, after 2 years of diet, reverse diet, diet, reverse diet, diet, reverse diet, not really having a whole lot, I worked out and straight trained every day. I was doing 2 a days, 3 a days, I was doing 3 a days until which time I got into prep and I backed it back down to 2 a days. I was doing everything a man could possibly do, counting my macros, weighing my food, everything I could possibly do. And when I stepped on that stage, I knew that I had followed through with the plan and I'd done everything I could. But I knew that the best was yet to come. Rather than going in and continuing throughout the season and bringing home a few more, mediocre returns, I said, I'm gonna take a year to focus on my weak points, to take what I've learned, to do a little bulking, and to bring my absolute best that I have within me next year and bring home the W's. So I took out the schedule. I looked at, where the next year's show would fall. The same show, I wanted to come back and do the same show the next year. I took 17 weeks out. Then I took and literally with the calendar, backed out a 90-day bulk, backed out a 6-week cut, which turned to 5 weeks, backed out another 90-day bulk, and that gave me 5 weeks off. Where all I did, when I say off, I still worked out every day. I still trained. I still, watched my macros and all that, but I wasn't cutting. I wasn't bulking. I was letting my body return to homeostasis because I had been pushing all the way to the edge and beyond, to failure and beyond, which is going to be part of my next series coming up in the next few weeks here. My point is that I always had to find daily motivation. We all want to quit. We all find it hard. We all reach a point where it's we doubt ourselves. We doubt our abilities. We doubt ourselves to be the best. Just be the best you that you can be, and that is good enough. That is worth the effort. You are worth it. Your life is worth it. Your future is worth it. Motivation is a daily, something we find from within, something we got to dig deep for, something we have to work at. Like I said, I'm great with like hanging post-it notes and writing signs and writing affirmations and saying things to myself. I try not to say the negative. I'm not like winners win and losers lose. I'm like, I only focus on the positive for myself. You know, the negative can be there. The negative's gonna come all on its own, and I just fight it away with the positive. You know, if you go right now home to my fridge and my bathroom mirror and the mirror on my dresser, you know, my number one goal, underlying everything, is to be an IFBB pro. I am chasing this with everything in my heart and soul. Every workout, every drop of sweat, every rep, every cardio session, every meal. You know, when I go to Thanksgiving, people are like, you're counting macros on Thanksgiving? Absolutely, I'm counting macros on Thanksgiving. You know, because we don't win the show generally the day we step on stage. We win it 7 months out. We win it 9 months out. We win it the year before. We win it by staying on point each and every day and just bringing the best. If I bring the best me I can be every day, that's good enough. So I encourage you today to look within yourself and see if you can be the best you can be today, because that is good enough. If you like the video, like the video. If you haven't subscribed yet, I ask you please subscribe, you know. Hit the notification bell, leave a comment, and remember, we get better together, and I love you guys. You can't outbeast the monster. See y'all soon.